Yeah, so if we can offer, or if we can all welcome Eli, right? To come and get us started.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Heidi, for the wonderful introduction. So yeah, also I want to say a little happy Father's Day. I got my Father's Day card today, which is very nice, handmade by my number two. So I keep those. I find them very rewarding. So yeah, I was kind of combining the service with the Holy Day. So obviously the topic is going to be about the Holy Day, the day of all true things. And one thing that is always, I always find that this Holy Day is an interesting one, I think, especially for kind of Western audiences, because it sounds a bit strange in English, like all things, like what are we celebrating, right? We're just celebrating everything in the world. Are we celebrating, like, does it include the microphone and the and so the Korean is very interesting because the word is manmul and right? So manmul literally means 10,000 things, which is why they translate it to all things, right? And what's interesting about that is also fundraising in Korean is manmul pokui, which is the restoration of all things, right? And even there's a tree in Cheonpyeong, it's manmul and not manmul number, right? The tree of all things, right? So, so in a way, all things can really be interpreted to mean the creation, right? And all things that God created, right? But it can also really be interpreted to mean kind of the third blessing, right? And how we have dominion over creation and how we are managing the creation, right? And so tying back to that theme of the restoration of all things can also be interpreted symbolically through money, right? And that's the idea of, restoration of all things. It's like money is kind of a symbol of all the material world and things you buy. And so the title of the service is Money, Money, Money. For those that are old enough to know ABBA and that song. It's a song on my playlist, right? Money, money, money. It's so funny. So money is a funny thing because it's a very personal thing in a lot of ways, right? And actually, if you kind of talk in the materialistic world and the corporate world, and you ask someone, well, how do you make money, right? The answer is, oh, well, you have to add value. You have to be adding value to society, right? And in a way, that's actually a very judgmental kind of way to explain money, because people do a lot of things, and if they're not making money, then it sounds like, oh, then you're not adding value to society, right? And it's kind of and that's why it's a very sensitive and a personal thing, because it's the way you are spending your time. It's the way you decide to spend your time in your day-to-day life. If you're working in a job, that's 40 hours a week. It's a massive chunk of your life. And if you're working at home, then, if you're taking care of kids and raising kids, then that's kind of a massive part of your life. And, for most people, it feels wrong to say your value is determined by how much money you make, right? There's obviously some sort of disconnect there, right? And then there's a lot of things that are very valuable in life that are hard to put a monetary value, right? Like especially things in nature, right? And if you look at the movement to try to protect nature and conserve nature, right? One of the challenges there is it's really hard to put a monetary value to nature, because we need nature, right? We need forests, we need trees. Something that I've been personally interested in and studying about in Ireland is there's an effort to reforest Ireland, right? It's like 11% of Ireland is trees and forests, and the government has a goal to get that up to 18%, right? So there's a lot of incentives for people to plant timber forests and timber yards, because they want to incentivize investment, and they want to incentivize people to spend their time building trees, planting trees and harvesting trees, but it's hard to put a monetary value, right? And that's why we have like areas where there's a lot of pollution and people are getting sick. When I was in Korea, I met a friend and he was saying that in the summer, like half the time you can't go outside if there's too much pollution. Like you have to wear a mask outside because it's going to hurt your lungs. And it's almost like a desperate situation. People just get used to it, they accept it, but it's like you're putting your life at risk to live in this major city in Asia, right? And there's, the cities in China are very similar as well. So, so the thing is, people often feel like, they're adding value to society, but it's not being recognized, or they're not making money. And a really good example of this is, who are the people that make some of the most money, right? Is it the people who are doing social work and teachers and educators? Or is it sports players, right? Sports players make a lot of money, right? And so are sports players adding more value to society on a whole than social workers? I don't know, maybe, right? And this,
Yes.
well, this is the other side of then value, right? And the value, when we think of this and, we can feel judged by it, is because we're thinking of our efforts, right? Here's what we are doing. Here's where we're making efforts and investing our time and investing our energy and trying to help people. But the part of the adding value, the other half of it, is the value people feel from what you're doing, right? And so the reason, for example, you can argue sports people add value is they make so many people feel a little bit better, right? It's the amount of people that is kind of a multiplier for a little bit of joy, right? I'm not saying sports players in an ideal world should make more money than social workers or teachers or doctors, but I'm saying that the core part of value is not just the value you're giving, it's the value that people actually feel themselves. It's a connecting point of the give and take relationship, right? And so the thing is, the way money in our current society works is also the value systems of the people in the society, right? What people in the society think is important, people in the society value, has a major impact on what is considered valuable, right? So there's an excellent example of this and an explanation of this in the divine principle around beauty, which I think kind of makes the point really kind of clearly, right? And it uses the example of a flower, right? And it talks about, the flower gives off beauty, but that's only half of it, right? It's actually the person has to then be able to see that beauty and appreciate it that makes the flower beautiful, right? And it's kind of the old philosophical question: if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound, right? I always hated that question because I'm always like, of course it makes a sound. But there's a truthful element to that question, because it's talking about the combining of two things, two values, right? So there's the value that we see in ourselves. There's the infinite value we have when we do something, when we invest ourselves, when we care about something. But we also have to consider the value of the people who are receiving it. Like, are we actually helping people? Are they actually feeling something from our efforts and our investment? And also, there's also then the factor of, what are the values of society, right? Are they the right values? And that's something, obviously, in our fallen world, value systems are very skewed. People prioritize the wrong things, they value the wrong things. And so we're not in a perfect system where the right things are valued. So I think it's very important that we see kind of both sides of this when we're thinking about what is valuable, what is important, right? And, again, kind of going back to the business world and nature, right? There's the idea of, are businesses valuing their impact on nature or not? And it's something that is important, and it is kind of shifting, and businesses are trying to change, like the cultural value system is shifting, and hopefully that has a long-term positive effect, right? And again, the Irish government initiative to try to plant more trees is, I think, a good example, right? But really, I think the topic of the service actually isn't about money. It was a lie. It's a trick. It's actually about witnessing. Surprise. Because our whole lives, right? We believe in this church. We have these values. We have this system. And it helps us, and we really feel we're investing. And, members of, especially the older members and the first generation, they've really given a lot of themselves to witnessing, to the church, to teaching the principle, to trying to help the movement grow, to take care of second gen, to raise second gen. And, oftentimes I feel, they feel like, or all of us feel like, we kind of hit a stagnation point, or, we're not, our value isn't being received or recognized, right? And so I think, I was using this example as money to kind of show that it's not just what we invest, but it's also what people see, and it's how people accept or understand what we're investing. And do we understand what people are expecting and what people are looking for, right? So, I personally believe the divine principle adds an incredible amount of value, because it does in my own life, right? For me personally, I can see the direct impact and the value it adds, and how I live my life has such a direction and purpose, through the three blessings, even the four fallen natures, the history of restoration. I was talking with some brothers about the DP workshop we want to do at the end of July, right? And I was like, yeah, let's talk about Moses. Like, I love Moses's story, right? And, Abraham and, Isaac and Jacob. Like, those are actually really powerful stories that are applicable in how we live our day-to-day lives. But how do we translate that? And this is just an open question. How do we translate that impact it has on us personally to what people are looking for, and people's value systems, and people's longing and interest, right? It's the other half of that. I think all of us need, as people of faith, as people who believe in what we believe, we ourselves have to be good examples of what we believe. But we have to find a way to actually help other people that can also benefit the way we've benefited. And that's the question I've, been asking myself for a long time. But it's something, from the idea of adding value, it's not just the amount of work we do and the amount of investment we give. It's how many people also feel value from our investment. How many other people feel like there's something we're offering that is valuable to them, right? And some of that's marketing, right? Actually telling people what's valuable, right? Like, maybe they're looking for it, but they can't find it because we're very small, and there's a lot of competition, right? We go out, when we did street witnessing, we had Muslims on one side and Christians around the corner, and they had nicer signs, and some of them were singing, and some of them had microphones with, so there's competition. So you can kind of see it as a marketing thing. But I think part of it is also, getting better at understanding that idea of how we're actually helping people, how we're adding value to their lives. And that's a challenge. I'm not saying that's an easy one. It's a long process. Sometimes it's slow, but I think we do have a lot of value there, and we do add a lot of value, but it's confined, and we have to figure out how to spread it, right? How other people can benefit from it. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing I was reflecting on when thinking about Day of All Things, right? Really thinking about the third blessing and how we contribute to society, how we add value to society, right? And I think the real value we can add to society is, the principle and the understanding of spirit world, and the understanding of the course of restoration, and Cain-Abel relationships, and the three blessings. All those things can be implied in a very practical way. And there was, for example, there was one member on Facebook who's quite negative, right? But they gave this testimony about, even though they were negative, they tried to keep certain principles that were practical for their life. And they found the principle of Cain and Abel very powerful because they were able to interact with a difficult boss in kind of this more humble way, serving way, and they won over that boss's heart, right? And it was really a powerful method and principle for them, right? To like advance their career and help, help them, show their value to their boss in a work environment, right? So that kind of I think those principles are very true. They exist, in all aspects of life. And it's something that, yeah, it's kind of a challenge to us and to everyone. How do we actually solve problems in people's lives through the principle? And it's something I think I think there's something that somehow we're hiding or we're afraid of, or we're not able to express it right, or we're still learning ourselves. Something is stopping us from really being able to show people how beneficial the principle is, how much it has impacted our own lives, right? And I think people who know us personally, they get a much better sense of that, and they see it, and they're impressed by it. Like, it doesn't mean they're going to convert or that they'll believe it themselves, but they can see that we have something that really grounds us and makes us confident and strong and have direction and be proud of the values that we live, right? And oftentimes, there are values that we have that they want and that they want to learn from. So that's, there's a lot of nuance there. It's something that I think about a lot and I'm still praying about, because it's still, the challenge of how we grow, the challenge of how we teach people the principle is an ongoing one. But it's just that little aspect of it I want to share with everyone today, something to reflect on, pray about. It's not just the value we feel or the value we get, but to really understand, in a way, understanding other people's perspectives, right? Understanding what do they struggle, where do we add value to them? Not just where we feel value or where the principle helped us, because we can be blinded by our own circumstances. So on that kind of final question or thing to think about, reflect on, I'll offer a closing prayer. Saramanashin Hanal Bumanim. As always, we're very grateful that we can come together as a community, as brothers and sisters from such different kind of backgrounds and perspectives, unified under this really core belief that we can build a kingdom of heaven on earth, that we can really establish that people are inherently good, and that we can all learn and we can all grow, and that we can all come to really feel and understand the reality of our Creator, our Heavenly Parent, who is in that position of a parent to us, who genuinely cares and loves us and is looking out for us and wants to see us succeed, wants to see us happy, wants us to see us overcome all the challenges we face and all the suffering that we face. So as we really celebrate literally everything today, we really want to reflect on how blessed we are, how much we have, especially compared to all those in history, from a material perspective, but also from an internal perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Really to live in a time where we don't have to struggle every day to eat, to find food, to find shelter, to find comfort, but also in a time where we can have some really clear direction and teachings about what it means to be human, what is right, what is wrong, what really brings happiness versus despair. And although we're always in a process of learning, as we're still trying to learn through our own lives of faith and from each other, I pray that we can always put our lives in perspective. And I really believe that perspective will really always lead to gratitude. Because if we can really see how much effort was made and how much sacrifice was made for us to be where we are today, then I think it's impossible not to feel grateful, not to really be, to really appreciate all the people who came before us and all those who really struggled in ways that we will never have to. So just today, I pray we can really enjoy the holy day, enjoy the time together, and pray that each person here can just feel your presence directly and also through each other. I report this with a very, very grateful heart in my name of Young Yellow Vicky Lowe, Blessed Central Family. Okay, I'll invite Heidi back up to close off the service. Thank you, Heidi.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila. There's a lot to learn from that, isn't there? The one funny thing is I realized that the church has so many words they use 10,000 in. Even when we do when we say Manse, that's like 1,000 cheers, right? Like there's so many aspects where we use 10,000 now. I just realized that there your talk, but there's also more the internal part of, really taking the time. I guess we could take the time today, especially of the day of all true things, to really appreciate what we have, appreciate the nature. Like I always think about that, especially with nature, that you should see nature through children's eyes. Because when you do that, you often notice like this little flower and how beautiful it is, or even a leaf, how beautiful it is, or how it's able to grow and things like that. But also in a more, I guess, relational aspect of you being, or you loving yourself, because you're also that. You're a part of, I guess, all things in some sense as well, or loving other people, and truly taking that time today, if not throughout the whole year, to really, appreciate each other and love each other, and be there. I think this, if not through the whole year, this is the day to do it, I think.
So we do it today and hell of it tomorrow.
We'll try again tomorrow.
Shoot those leaves out of there.
Yeah, there's a lot to be appreciative of, I think.
Only one made you appreciate.
Please. 24 hours.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a lot to be appreciative of, I think, and a lot of people to be. So I think with that, thank you again, Eli, and I think we'll go on to our next song. That song is The Blessing of Glory.
Money, 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 but I don't know.
Yeah. We're continuing on that. Not Abba, but it's almost a little bit.
Like the sun that shines on high, now awaken into freedom, all revive, spirits all revive, wake the mountains and the valleys, bring alive the springs of the earth, like the world forever, with the light of your rebirth, like the world forever, with the light of your rebirth. We are called to bring
Thank you, everyone. With that, it's not time to say goodbye just yet, but we will have a few announcements before by our lovely Eli again.
Big announcement as I just turned 40. Now I'm officially an old man. So also we have some guests visiting. I'm going to invite them up to the front. My lovely sister and her husband visiting from Colorado. So come on up, guys, up here in the middle. So you want to do a quick introduction? Just name, age, favorite fruit, whatever. Something simple.
Hello, everybody. I'm Koki Nakahira. I'm 29, and yeah, I think favorite fruit is maybe avocados.
It's not a fruit. Guy likes to stir controversy.
It's fun.
No, he had that one planned.
Hello, I'm Virginia Rose, and I'm 30. And my favorite fruit is probably mango, maybe.
All right. So Virginia Rose, if Koki's driving you bananas, you got to let that mango. Sorry, guys. I'm in a funny mood. Huh? Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think everyone knows the Stouts. They're also visiting. They need no introduction. So I think we can get to finalize the holy